Welcome to Whisky Sounds Good. I'm your host, Dave Paradise, and this week's episode I'm joined by Megan from Woodrow's of Edinburgh, an independent bottler that has been making waves since 2022. The idea for this chat came after a chance encounter I had with one of their whiskies that I pulled off the shelf in a bar in Edinburgh. It's a 5-year-old Inchfad. It's now currently sold out, and I now know why. Some people on Reddit have described it as fresh, fruity, funky, smoky, even industrial, and I honestly can't disagree with that description. It caught my attention, I really liked it, and I reached out to Megan, and a week later we're sitting in one of our warehouses in Edinburgh recording this upcoming podcast. So grab a dram, settle in, and let's get into it. Megan, thank you for taking the time to chat with me.
No, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
I literally was introduced to Woodrow's last Wednesday. We were staying in Queensferry, and I was taking some guests out for a dram, and I looked in the back bar, all the big names you know, and I thought, no, I can't just pour one of these for these guys. They're in Scotland, they want a bit of an experience, they want to discover something new, and Woodrow's caught my eye, and I think there was 3 variations. You know, we might have been watching the budget. I went for the 5-year-old. I think it was about £4 a dram.
Not bad.
Which I thought was very respectable, especially after I tasted it. And it excited me so much that I think I reached out on Instagram.
You did, yeah.
Started chatting, and then here we are.
I was lying in bed when you started messaging me, and I was like falling asleep, and I was just like, oh yeah.
Does that sort of define what it's like to be self-employed?
I've worked 9 to 5 jobs, I've had bosses, and yes, I had more free time back in those days. However, everything I do is for myself now, and I wouldn't change that. I hope I never have to go back to.
I feel the same way. I'm early in the journey of leaving the corporate world, and I had an amazing experience through it, but very excited to try my own thing, and excited to hear more about the backstory of Woodrow's and how you guys started. So I know you said, I think 3 years or so you've been going?
Yeah, it'll be 3 years this July, so just shy of 3 years total we've been having Woodrow's on the go.
And you're not a whiskey producer per se, but you're an independent bottler, is that right?
Yeah, independent bottler and blender. So we source casks from around the country, and 99% of the time they come in the warehouse, they're not
ready.
What we want to bottle. So we'll re-rack it into a sherry cask, or we'll blend it together, make something new and funky, and put our own stamp on things.
What excited you about starting your own independent bottling company?
Excited me or terrified me?
Yes, I suppose they're interchangeable.
So we started off as an exporter of various spirits. That's how we started off, and that would have been in 2016 we founded the company. I was 22, I was fresh out of uni, and my partner Woody, who is also 50% of the company, he was also just fresh out of uni, and at that time there was a craft gin boom and a craft beer boom, and the UK market was getting very saturated, and because of Woody's connections with the Far East, we thought maybe we can help these companies move their product over there, and that was going to be our main job. But as a Scottish company, what did the Asian market want? Whiskey. So that pushed us into the whiskey market a bit more, because that's what was selling. And then after that we ended up buying and trading casks with Far East. So then over time we had a warehouse, we did the bottling for the Asian clients as well, so we had a bottling line, we had all these casks, and it just made sense for us because we had everything set up already to do the bottling. So at that point, it was actually Woody that mentioned it to me. He was like, shall we do an independent bottling? And I was like, but everything's fine now the way it is. Like, we're making money, we're stable. Like, why would you want to do that? It's so much extra work. You have a brand. And I was terrified. But I came around to the idea, and we both did it.
Brilliant. Glad you did.
This one is our Iron 28. So as I said, this one we actually didn't do anything to it. It's one of the 1% of casks I mentioned that come in that are actually good enough to bottle. You don't see much of Iron on the independent bottling market.
Right.
They don't tend to sell their casks out to to bottlers like us. So we actually got this through a private seller, and it came in, and it was quite funny because I think initially when it came in, we got a sample first, which is very rare. We never get a sample before we buy it because it was a private seller. We actually did. We tasted it and we thought it was horrible. We were like, oh no, we bought this cask, it's coming and I hate it. What am I going to do? It's Iron 28, I was really excited about it. But then the cask came in and we tried it and it tasted great. I think they gave us the wrong sample.
Oh, okay.
I think Aaron gave us the wrong sample. So that was a really good relief because my investor was here because we have an investor, and he was here when the cask came in and he was like, can I try it? And I was like, oh no, he's going to be like, what did you buy? But then, yeah, we tasted it together and I was like, okay, this is good. So if you want to have a little try of it.
I'd love to, yeah. You know, I was going to say before you said that you thought it might be the wrong sample, sometimes you can taste something in a certain circumstance and then try the same thing later and have a completely different experience, but it sounds like that wasn't the case with that. It's
two night and day, like.
Was it? Yeah.
It was, the one we had was like, it was quite heavily sherried and it was like, tasted like rubber. There's like barely any, it's fully matured in sherry.
You mean rubber's not a desirable tasting note?
Well, you liked your Inchfad, that had a bit of rubber in it.
Yeah, did it? I mean, that had a lot going on in it, that whiskey. That was really interesting. Loch Lomond, right?
Yeah, so that one
What's the name for it?
Inchfad, so it's their peated range.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, they do have like other ones. They have like Croft and Gee and Inchfad, and it's all down to, they do different things.
Yeah, just switch up the production.
Yeah.
Okay, so
this one is the Iron 28. So it was distilled in 1997. So this was distilled only maybe just over a year after the distillery opened.
Cool.
So this was released before they'd ever done a release. So it's very, very early days of Arran. And it has been in a refill sherry hogshead for its full life, but as you can tell from the colour, like 28 years in a sherry.
Yeah.
You would expect. You
wouldn't guess that was a sherry cask, but yeah, no. Refill, hogshead. Well, I mean, not that the hogshead really changes much for me, but if anything, it should give it more colour, right, than a butt.
Yeah, because the more surface contact with the wood. So this one, yeah, I reckon it's been a refill sherry cask. Slange. First whiskey of the day.
You know that when your first whiskey of the day, and it's at cask strength, is delicious, you know it's good.
And this, after 28 years, it's still 56.9%.
Yeah, wow.
So for 28 years.
That's pretty unusual, isn't it?
Yes.
It would usually be sort of into
49.
the 40s or low 50s.
Yeah.
First taste I got from that was just like the inside of a sweet shop.
Yeah.
And then it kind of evolves and there's a little bit of that sherry kind of flavour profile, but
teeny.
Yeah, it's very subtle. It's not like, I would never pick that up and automatically think it was a sherry cask.
No. I do think it's better off being in this refill sherry cask than a second fill, because I think the light, delicate tropical notes and the, as you say, the sweet shop, they're quite light, delicate flavours. If you'd had like too much sherry influence, or I think even just any more sherry influence than that, you would lose.
You'd lose a lot of it.
I think so.
If you were to just grab something off the shelf and it was your last drink,
ever,
would it be a whiskey? Would it be a wine? Would it be a rum?
It would be a whiskey. It would be a peated whiskey, Islay peat, probably, like a Lagavulin or an Ardbeg or something like that, depending what's on the shelf, what I can choose.
Yes, there's something about a good peated whiskey is very comforting to me.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's like a hug.
It is. It just takes me to like relaxing by a fire on a cold winter's night, and you're all snuggled up and warm, and you can smell the fire.
Yeah.
It just takes me there, and it's very
incredible.
Comforting. Yeah. It was a peaty whiskey that got me into whiskey in the first place.
Oh, was it?
Yes, it was a Lagavulin 16.
Oh, wow.
So I'd had whiskey before. Woody actually worked for Glenkinchie Distillery. He was a tour guide, and at that time I was actually teetotal, just because I was trying to be healthy.
Yeah, seems to be a thing these days.
know. So yeah, I was trying to be healthy, and I was try little things sometimes. You know, he was working at Glenkinchie, so I'd try and I'd be like, it was nice, but then I had a Lagavulin 16. I went to Diggers, the Athletic Arms. Really great pub. So that's actually where I discovered whiskey.
Oh, cool.
I was there, and I don't know what came over me, because I said I'd been kind of teetotal for like 5 years at this point, and I just was like, God, go on, I'll have a whiskey then. Just one. And it was I went for a Lagavulin 16 for some reason, and I fell in love with it in a crazy way. And then it was the peat whiskey that got me to drinking the whiskey. And then over the time, I explored other types of things, and I really got an appreciation for the different types of whiskey and the different like flavors you can get, the regions, everything. It's just so different. That's what I love about Scotch, is you can get the peat, you can get the sweet stuff, you can get salty, you can get everything. And there's no flavor that you cannot get in whiskey, I don't think. And
single malt Scotch whiskey, I think, is, in my opinion, is the widest spectrum of flavours in one category of spirit, I think, that you can get.
That's why I fell in love with it. And that's not to say Glenkinchie was bad, it's just at that point in my life, I didn't get it, you know.
Well, thankfully we're not sponsored by Glenkinchie. Speaking of peated whiskies, what does Woodrow's have in the peated range that's either available now or maybe already sold out? Because I know a lot of your whiskies are sold out.
Yeah, so unfortunately with peat, it doesn't stay on the table long. Whenever we release it,
it's gone.
Yeah, we released a Stoisha last month, and I'd sold it all to all my retailers before it had even released. I didn't even ask them for pre-orders. I told them what was coming out, and they all emailed me asking for pre-orders. So I was like, okay, well that's that gone. But that was nice. It was on the table so little, I don't even remember anything about it. But currently, we have, where is it? This one, the Port Charlotte 16.
Oh yeah.
So actually this is a very similar story to the Arran. This one came in and we didn't want to play with it too much, because it came in just good. And also, again, this one was not something that we'd ordered in from like Diageo or anything like that. This one was also from a private seller, because you don't see Port Charlotte on the market.
I can't say that I remember seeing a single Port Charlotte in an independent bottling.
This is my first ever Port Charlotte single cask that I've ever tried. So when you buy a cask, it either comes with naming rights or it doesn't.
Right.
And it's just as simple as that. It's on the paperwork, if you can call it. So like, quite typically, certain distilleries don't come with naming rights. So like if you buy a cask of Macallan, it probably won't come with naming rights. Or if it does, it's a very expensive cask. But also, like, where there's Laphroaig, who sells their casks as Williamson into the market. So if you see a Williamson, that's usually associated with Laphroaig. So we've released a few Williamsons ourselves. Cool. It is made at Lochlea Distillery, but I can't call it Laphroaig. But they have their own little code word that we're allowed to use. Right. And Williamson is obviously named after Betsy Williamson, who's the old manager of Laphroaig Distillery.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, she was, well, there weren't many women in whiskey back in that day.
Yeah.
She was kind of,
special.
She was the one that got Laphroaig to be called medicine so they could export it to the US during the Prohibition. Very clever lass.
What a legend.
Yeah. So they named those casks after her now.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I was in Belfast at the weekend and I went into a pub and I was with a bunch of friends from Belfast. My first drink when I landed was I went to the pub, the Deerhead I think it's called, and I looked at the shelf and I was like, I should have an Irish whiskey or a Guinness, but there was a Lagavulin 16 on the shelf and I could not help myself. So I ordered that and I came out and my friends were like, oh, what did you go for? You know, your first dram in Belfast this year. I was like, please don't judge me. I went for
Keeping it real.
And they were like, oh, for goodness. And so then it was actually quite good because then they all went and bought me Irish whiskey and brought it back to me. I didn't have to pay for it.
Did you see many Scotch whiskies on the shelves in Ireland?
Not so many. I went into a bar and I asked my friend to get me a whiskey. And he said, what do you want? And I was like, anything smoky. And he went up to the bar and the barman just laughed at him. And he was like, oh, well, do you not have anything peaty? He was like, no. And he was like, well, I didn't ask my friend to get me Scotch. I thought Irish do have peated whiskies. I'm sure they do.
I think Connemara is one that's well known that's peated.
Yeah, well, anyway, he just got laughed at for daring to ask for a smoky whiskey.
You're not in Scotland now.
I know.
Is there anything that you gravitate towards when it comes to kind of aging in different types of...
So when the cask comes in, when we taste it, that's when we kind of decide what to do with it. And we try and pair it with what we think will work best.
Yeah.
So if it's very sweet and we want to bring a bit of earthiness to it, we could use like a red wine cask.
Yeah.
If it's a bit sour, maybe we could, like this Mortlach, for example, we have, why can I not find them when I need them?
That's it.
That one, yeah, the Mortlach. So this is like, as we know, Mortlach is very meaty and very savoury. So when this one came in, it was in a refill hogshead. So we re-racked it into a first fill American oak Pedro Jimenez sherry because we thought American oak, didn't want it to be too spicy, but we wanted it to sweeten it up a lot with the Pedro Jimenez.
Love that.
So we kept it in there for 3 years, and then once it's re-racked, yeah, we just taste it every like 6 months maybe, and then once it's getting closer to being ready, we taste it a bit more frequently, and then we think, okay, that's ready now, we can bottle it. It's my favourite part of the job is to taste them and kind of plan ahead with what I could make it into.
Yeah.
Blending is fun as well. Blending is very fun actually.
It's hard though, right?
Yes. Well, you kind of do when you're blending something, you have something in mind that you want to make. I would say our core range warehouse blend, we wanted it to be waxy, we wanted it to be a bit floral, we wanted it to have a little bit of a funk to it as well. So for the funk we used Glen Scotia, and then for the waxiness we used Glen Ord, and for the florality we used Glen Elgin. And then the idea was to have a little hint of smoke in the finish, so that's why I put a little bit of Whitlaw in there.
Have you had any visions of what's next, where you want to take it, or are you just kind of taking each day as it comes?
You definitely plan for the future. We have a vision of what we want to do. At the moment, we just, as unfortunately, our whiskies sell it quite quickly. So what want to do is we want to increase the amount that we put out. But unfortunately, it's difficult to do that and keep the quality high sometimes because we're very, very selective about the casks that we do decide to release.
Yeah.
So as a result, our next release is next month, and I'm like trying different things and I'm trying to find what might be good enough, and so far I've selected 2 that I think is good enough. My partner disagrees, but I think they are good enough. Sometimes you have disagreements about that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, so it can be hard to scale up. So what we're doing is we're just buying more casks at the moment. We're buying much more parcels as well. So when we first started, it was hard to get casks because you don't have the relationships with the distillers. So for us, it took maybe 2 years of banging on Diageo's door before they decided that we were, before they could trust us, I guess, is probably the word I should use.
Yeah.
Because, well, as a distiller, they need to trust us with their product.
Sure.
If I'm putting, Glen Elgin on the bottle, they don't want us to be...
It's got to represent.
Yeah, exactly. So they need to trust us.
Yeah.
So as a result of that, our cask prices, we can maybe work with a bit more volume, and also we can maybe have a little bit more. And if we're buying in volume, it's cheaper.
Yeah.
So as a result, that's good. So we're just scaling up, I suppose.
Yeah.
Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Getting more casks. As we're buying more casks, they get cheaper, and that gives us more room to play and put more releases out, hopefully, and grow that way. As a business owner, what do I not enjoy? Dealing with HMRC.
Right.
Yeah, all that's what I find really boring, but to be fair, Woody's very good at that, so he does all that for me, because
outsource it to Woody.
He's great at that stuff. He's great with the legalities of things. He should have been a lawyer, I swear. He can read a text and he can retain all the legalities around things. So he's great for me. He can read all those documents, translate it to me what it means, and I'll go, okay, great, I can deal with the duty that way, or I can deal with the shipment and getting things over that border that way. So that's my personal thing that I really don't like doing, is dealing with all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually the more creative people aren't good at admin.
I'm terrible.
Yeah, and vice versa. Like,
Yeah.
I suppose you can have a blend of the two, but I'm that way. Admin is kryptonite to me.
I hate it.
Not what I want to be doing.
No.
But, you know, you've got to wear a lot of hats, haven't you?
You do. It's just me and Woody in this business. We have an investor, of course, but running the business is just me and Woody.
Yeah.
But it's good because we have very opposite personalities, very opposite ways of doing things. So, as I say, I think he's very good at the warehousing side and dealing with all those documents and licensing and things like that. I'm better at creative, I'm better at marketing, I'm better at that. So, and we also have very different palates as well. So I like the smoky, I like the heavy sherry, I like things that are very oily and dirty. He likes things that are very light, delicate, Speyside bourbons. That's his jam. So that makes it easier for us to have a selection of things that stimulate both of us.
Definitely.
Yeah. So that works.
Keeps it interesting. Woodrow's is available across Scotland, obviously, across the UK and beyond.
Yeah, we're in retailers in England, so we're in like Milroy's, Master of Malt, places like that. Struggle to get into Ireland, obviously, for obvious reasons.
Right.
They're always just wanting, they're very saturated with their own product.
Yeah.
But yes, we're also exporting to Denmark, Japan, Hong Kong, and Taiwan.
Cool.
So we only just started exporting recently because our idea was if we want to grow our product, let's get our foot firmly in the soil in the UK.
Yeah.
So we spent the first 2 years building that up within our own country and getting a strong brand name here rather than putting lots of, like a little bit in all the pots. We wanted to have one full pot before we overflowed into the other countries.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's kind of how we view it. But it's nice, yeah. I mean, I'm not complaining. I got trips to Japan, I get trips to Taiwan.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's
I enjoy.
class.
There are parts of the job I really enjoy. Traveling is one of them.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks for your time.
Oh, thank you for coming.
Nice to meet you, Megan, and look forward to your continued success and tasting some of these bad boys when they come round.
Yeah, I'm excited to release them too. It's my favourite part of the job is releasing them and letting other people try them.
You've got a great job.
Yeah, I love it.